Well, Joe Biden has been slammed for his inflation speech, with some accusing him of gaslighting the American people. The US president took to the stage today to update the country on the inflation crisis, which in March reached a 40-year high of 8.5%. Americans are crying out for help. The cost of living has soared, with the price of food and gas at new extremes. Joe Biden blamed two things for record high inflation: the coronavirus pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
I want every American to know that I'm taking inflation very seriously, and it's my top domestic priority. I want us to be crystal clear about the problem. There are two leading causes of inflation we're seeing today. The first cause of inflation is a once-in-a-century pandemic. Not only did it shut down our global economy, it threw the supply chains and demand completely out of whack, especially in countries where more effective recovery responses weren't available. And this year we have a second cause, Mr. Putin's war in Ukraine. We saw in March that 60% of inflation that month was due to price increases at the pump for gasoline. Putin's war has raised food prices as well, because Ukraine and Russia, two of the world's major breadbaskets for wheat and corn, are essentially completely stalled.
The president was probed on if he takes responsibility for inflation.
Do you take any responsibility for the inflation in this country? Do you take any responsibility for your policies?
I think our policies help, not hurt. Think about what they say. The vast majority of the economists think that this is going to be a real tough problem to solve, but it's not because of spending. We've brought down the deficit. The bottom line is, how much does America owe? How much in the hole are we going? We're reducing that.
But not everyone was buying it. Republicans and critics took to Twitter to share their frustration. Kyle Becker wrote, "Biden is lying about his solutions to inflation and the non-existent Republican plan for a middle-class tax hike. This gaslighting won't work because the policies won't work." Charlie Spearing wrote, "Very defensive speech. So far, Joe Biden hasn't offered a single new solution to inflation, even though he says it's his top domestic priority. A lot of shuffling and rehashing of previous efforts." Senator Ted Cruz even wrote an op-ed calling for more domestic production of oil to ease the pressure of gas prices while the US continues to place sanctions on Russia. He wrote, "We have the resources and ability to produce clean, affordable energy in America in a way that eludes Russia, China, and Venezuela. The Biden administration knows this and yet stymies production instead of encouraging it." White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was later questioned multiple times on the Biden administration's response to inflation.
Speaking of inflation, is he concerned at all that widespread loan forgiveness would actually increase inflation, further exacerbated by pumping money into the economy?
I know some economists, and I don't have an official assessment from here.
So then just to make sure, what he's saying is the pandemic is distinct from the spending in response to the pandemic, and he does not believe the size of the spending mattered with regard to inflation.
Again, no.
RNC research then resurfaced the viral video of Joe Biden laughing at Trevor Noah's joke about the rising cost of living under the Biden administration.
I think ever since you've come into office, things are really looking up. Gas is up, rent is up, food is up, everything. No, it really has been a tough first year for you, Mr. President. And sure.